Hello there, my name is Joy, and I am thrilled to share that my daughter finished the Memory Masters program successfully a couple of weeks ago. And the whole time we were doing the process of studying for it, I kept thinking, ooh, I want to share with other people the things that worked for us while we were going through this process. So I'm making this quick video to put here on YouTube for you. First of all, the reason why we did it, I just thought it would be good to have an opportunity to teach her study skills. Because we're homeschooling, we don't have as many opportunities where she goes outside of our home and takes tests. And so I thought it was good to teach her some different study skills. And then I thought it would be good for her to just have that confidence afterwards, knowing that she was able to work really hard on this big task and then complete it successfully. So both of those things happened. She learned some good study skills and had confidence afterwards. So those are our whys. I don't think it's necessarily for everyone, but that's why we did it. First of all, I created a binder for her that's big and visible and we can find it easily. So this was the Memory Master binder that we put together. And then what I did is I started, well, I should go back and say that we joined CC during COVID. And so she's in 6th grade. And so this is her last year doing foundations. So she wasn't as familiar with the timeline or the math up to 15s. So we started as early as November, knowing that she would do her proofing at the end of April. So that gives you a timeline of when we started. My daughter is a visual learner. So what I did with the timeline is I printed it out this way and made each column a different color. So sometimes when she was studying, she would look at it visually, and later when we'd work on glitches in her timeline, I'd say, do you remember what column that was in? What color was it? Was it the top, the bottom, that kind of thing. So I found this helpful in our family to print this out, make colors for each column, and use that in addition to singing the song. I didn't do this the whole time, but as we got closer, maybe 2 or 3 months out from proofing, I made a double-sided sheet of the timeline, and I made a bunch of copies of it, 1 per week, and I would just keep track of where her errors were. So each week we could see her progress on the timeline. So I would just, in color, mark where the errors were, and we'd see the number of errors go down by the week, which was very cool. Another thing that I read while we were preparing that was very helpful to us, so wherever we got it, thank you very much, someone said, make sure you know your day of proofing and then study the last 3 weeks of memory work ahead of time. So we started listening to the last 3 history songs ahead of time, the last 3 science, finding creative ways to do the science for the last 3 weeks. So it might be that you need to go ahead and work ahead on things that you won't yet encounter before the proofing day. So we worked ahead and did the last 3 weeks of all the subjects simultaneously, even as early as January or February. The 2 things that we did daily, because they were the hardest, were timeline. So like I said, we had the different columns and colors. And so we would do Monday, we'd do these 2 columns. Tuesday, we would do these 2 columns. Wednesday, we do these 2 columns, and Thursday we would go back and look at those trouble spots, which I had recorded here, and then come up with creative ways to get us through different little breaks. So for example, Baroque period of the arts is near Japan's isolation. So we talked about like, oh, if you Baroque up with somebody, you would be isolated. Baroque period of the arts, Japan's isolation. So that's what we did on Thursday, and then Friday's our community day. So for many weeks, we only did it 4 days a week. The other thing we did daily were the math fluency cards. My daughter was in public school before this, had great math instruction. She knew her multiplication up to the 12s, thankfully, but 13, 14, 15 were completely foreign to both of us. So we would work on just 13, 14, 15, a little bit each day. And then the rest of the time, we broke up the other subjects. So we did Latin on Monday with half of the rest of math, the area of the circle and all that stuff. And then we do some of history on Tuesday and some of science. And we break it up into smaller chunks the rest of the week. But every day we always did a little bit of fluency, a little bit of timeline, and then we broke up the rest of the subjects. I made for myself, because I like to make charts and tables, I made for myself a little checklist here. I just had a Word document and inserted some tables and just gave myself some, I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but I'll put it in I can put a link in the comments. But I just made a little table with all the different things we worked on each day. And then below it, I made a section for notes. So I might say, oh, we need to go back and really work on the Latin, or, you know, in this cycle we did verb conjugations in Latin. And so I made in the notes, oh, I really got to help her learn those, the memory techniques for those, the mnemonic devices and so forth. So that's what we did as far as daily. I told you about the chart. And then finally, the last thing I would say is as the time got closer, maybe the last 2 weeks prior to proofing, we covered all the memory work in a 2-day period. So Monday, Tuesday, we hit all of it. Wednesday, Thursday, we hit all of it. Friday, Saturday, we hit all of it. We always took a break for Sabbath. I told my daughter, we're not working on this on Sabbath. That's what God commands, and it's good. It's a gift to have Sabbath. But in those last 2 weeks, we really pushed it hard. So anyway, just want to share those tips with you. I hope you find it helpful, and I hope your experience with Memory Master is a good one.